We are live. I am Deborah Henson-Conant, and I am here with Kathleen Wiley. This is called Jung at Harp, and today we are going to talk about how to re-experience yourself. I am a composer and a performer, also a harpist, and Kathleen Wiley is a Jungian psychoanalyst, also a harpist, and so we call this Jung at Harp. Today, we're trying something very new for us. For a long time, for about a year or so, we've been recording this live, recording it and then putting it on YouTube. And today, we are experimenting recording onto 3 different channels at the same time: YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. So we are hoping we'll be able to see your comments as well as talking about this subject. So, Kathleen, when every morning when we are ready to do this, we come up with a subject, and it's always something that we're dealing with, that one or both of us are dealing with at the same time. And so for me, I wanted to talk about this subject of how to re-experience ourselves, because that's something that I'm working on in my own life. I was in a meditation the other day, and I like, my eyes went like boom, like this, and I was like, oh my God, I experience myself as someone who is indebted all the time. No matter what I do, if someone gives me a gift, I'm indebted to them. If somebody, whatever, it has nothing to do with even money. I just always have that. And I was like, wow, that's a kind of a weird way to be. How do I re-experience that? So that's part of what's going on for me. And on the other side of that, I'm just about to teach a class, and I just did a challenge in a piece called Baroque Flamenco. And this piece is sort of an iconic harp piece in which the player gets to impersonate. You're not really playing flamenco, but you're having the experience of playing flamenco, pretending you can. It's sort of a make-believe piece. And you get to experience these 2 realities. And I created it for myself early on in my harp career because I needed to re-experience myself as being able to express something with freedom and with passion, because I was just learning how to play the harp and I was struggling along with it, and I just couldn't get anywhere. And I was like, where is that repertoire that lets me be amazing fast? So I created this piece, and then over years and years, I developed it more and more, and it started taking on more and more shapes. And what happened is the piece itself made a space in which I could re-experience myself. And I'm really interested in how to do that more in my life, how to create creative structures that allow me to re-experience myself.
Yeah, I mean, this is such a great topic, because in my parlance in Jungian, the world, and I would talk about it as remembering parts of yourself, that somewhere along the way, all of us to some degree, have been dismembered. We've been cut apart. And so we lose access to parts of ourselves. And so in that meditation, you remembered something about your life history and your historical experience of feeling indebted. It came to you as if it's present reality where you're always feeling indebted. But what's really happening is some historical feedback loop where there was some relationship you were indebted that keeps hijacking the present. And so to re-experience current reality really means to reconnect and remember all of what we have experienced and see it in its proper place. Connect to where it's rooted in us so it doesn't keep showing up as if it's the filter that's the current reality.
So, okay, cool. So what I'm hearing you saying, and you're right, when I had this revelation, I was like, wow, when did this first happen? And I started thinking, what was my relationship with money? I mean, because it's indebted, but it's not just indebted vis-a-vis money. It's sort of indebted in general. But I just kept thinking, like, wow, when did, what were my very first experiences of money? Well, it was looking at coins, but then almost immediately I had the sense that there's not enough. Or if you take this, something else is going to happen. You're gonna lose this or that. If you take that, you're going to owe something else. I think that's really what it is. If you take this, you're going to owe something else, or if somebody gives you this. But I went back and I'm sort of looking at my earliest. But so you're talking about remembering, and yes, I was remembering something that dismembers me, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it dismembers you as long as it's unconscious, because then it kicks in automatically and becomes the filter through which you're experiencing current reality, even though it's not current reality. But it's interfering because our psyche soul needs us to embody our experience. It needs us to feel it, acknowledge it, validate it, see where it's rooted. And it's a paradox. Doing that actually takes its power away.
As you're saying, and I'm thinking about the word, I'm thinking remembering means taking something that was and putting it into membership in our life, rather than having membership in the moment that we're in, right?
That's right. That's right. And when we do that, then things that are seeming opposites, like the minuet and the flamingo that come together in Baroque flamenco, are married. They find a union.
Wait a second, just a second. It's not flamingo. It's flamenco. Flamenco. Okay,
thank you.
Although I must say, almost everybody says that, which is great. I love the idea of a Baroque flamenco flamingo. But anyway, okay, go on. So you were saying in the piece, yeah.
Yeah, but I want to say even the naming of it, that's important, because when when two seeming opposites are married,
right,
a uniting third emerges. The flamenco is the third. It's not the flamingo, it's not the minuet, but it's the flamenco. And so that is so true for us psychologically and emotionally and mentally, that when we can, in the present moment, say someone you're dating offers you something and you immediately freeze inside because there's a terror. If you accept it, then you're indebted, meaning you can never break up with him. You can't say no to him. Then in the moment where you can say, wow, okay, there's that indebted thing. And you know what? He's just offering me something that there are no strings attached. And we can hold that until a uniting third, a way forward, emerges that has elements of both, just like the flamenco has elements of both. So, I love we have the word artist with us too.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, for the first time we're actually, seeing comments, which is just like, what? Now I'm a little bit discombobulated, but so I'm thinking about this idea of when we remember, we are not membering, we are not being in membership with ourselves in the moment, we're not being in membership with the present. And you were talking about this gift from, say, you're dating with somebody and they give you a gift or whatever somebody gives you a gift. If I'm immediately thinking what I owe, I'm not accepting the gift. I'm not being inside the gift. And I want to bring this to music for a minute, because I find that people are, especially people who are starting an instrument later in life. And there's a lot of students, my students tend to be either recovering classical harpists, people who had a lot of training, but never learned how to sort of play by ear. And then people who started later in life who need to learn how to improvise, because in both cases, you're not there to win a contest. You're there to break away from that whole idea of music as a contest. And music is like, I have to deserve to have this experience. And what's so powerful to me in working with these two groups together is to help people get to the point of saying, yes, you do deserve, we can have that experience We can have a peak musical experience at any level of technical ability if we're willing to embody that. And this is really interesting because this is reminding me of what you're saying about the consciousness. If we can become conscious of what's going on for us, then we can start to integrate it. And so what I'm constantly working with people on is, what is your level? Okay, this is all the stuff you can't do. You're focusing on everything you can't do and missing everything you can do. And not only missing it, but often denigrating it. Like we often think that thing that is easy for us to do, that thing that is easy for us to be, it's not okay. And I think this goes back to that sense of debt. It's got to be harder than this. If it's this easy, it can't be worth anything. If I've given this gift, I have to owe something. It's not okay for me to just have this gift. I'm thinking, this is like, I'm kind of sparking now because I'm thinking, when you have an instrument like this, it comes with certain gifts. It comes with let's see if I can do this with this microphone on. It comes with the gift of, oh, it's not on. One of the amazing things about an electric harp is you can turn it off. Is that it just comes with this beautiful sound. It's beautiful. It also has this this amazing, without even knowing how to play. And I notice a lot of times people who don't know how to play, they will get to the harp and they will do all kinds of free stuff. They'll be like, I'm just playing, and it's when you start learning that you start getting constrained. And I want to know this for myself, but also and so I created Baroque Flamenco as a piece that is a virtuosic piece. I mean, you can play it as a concerto with symphony orchestra, but you can also play it as a very simple piece that doesn't have a lot of technical requirements, but allows you to have the experience of playing with freedom. So this is why I wanted to bring this up today, is I'm teaching this. I can teach it in the harp, but how do I get that in my own life? How do I teach myself the experience of being the person I'm afraid of being, or I don't know how to be?
Yeah, and I think it's not so much about teaching yourself, but it is about reconnecting with what's interfering with being and embodying your current reality. I mean, part of what happens, and I just want to play, if it's okay, with your awareness of always feeling indebted.
Sure.
Is that somewhere there are things you've not been able to accept in the present, whether it's hearing the beautiful sound of your playing or a literal gift from someone you're in relationship with, because this template, this feedback loop, this historical truth about how to be safe in relationship kept coming up from the unconscious, meaning automatically, spontaneously, without any ego consent, and hijacking the current reality. And so it would take you over. And in that moment, then you lose access to the present reality of what you're experiencing now, i.e., for instance, with the harp, what you're literally hearing, what's resonating in your body as you're playing, what it feels like to be touching the strings with the minuet or the flamingo, what it feels like in the transition that's the flamenco. We lose that when we're hijacked by a previous feedback loop. So in a way, life is always giving us opportunities to reconnect, re-experience, remember bits of ourselves. And how do we know when something's coming up that needs our attention to be remembered? Is somewhere what we want in the present is getting thwarted. What our ego wants in the present is getting thwarted. We have a goal, we have an idea of what it needs to be, and something's stopping that. And that something that's stopping it is the key also to being able to move forward with it.
Okay, so I love teaching, and teaching is fairly new in that it's like maybe 5 years old for me, but when I teach, I see this, I see these things come up. I see people trying to do things that I know can be simple if people let them do it, let themselves do it. It's going to be simple, but it's not going to be without mistake. It is not going to be perfect, but it has a simplicity. And then I see all these concerns coming up. I see people, like stopping themselves and therefore literally stuttering. I mean, well, literally meaning I can't get there. And in part, they're worried about getting to the strings right instead of get to the strings wrong, get to the strings wrong, get to the strings wrong, but a little closer, get to the strings wrong, get there wrong. Oh, I got there right. Cool. Oh, so I'm wrong again. Oh, I'm right again. Okay. Meaning, I got where I wanted to go. Oh, I'm not there, but be okay with it. Versus what I see people doing, and I'm sure I do this in my own life. Go, oh crap, I did that again. Oh, what is that? Okay, I'm gonna try to. No, I know I'm not gonna do this right. Oh, I did it wrong again. And you can just see how much more energy that takes. And I'm not saying it's just others. I know I'm doing it in my own life. And what frustrates me is I can see in music, I can see it and I can help people through it, but I can't even see. All I know is that I'm there in my life, and I know that's how they're experiencing it.
Yeah. And so part of it again is that, oh crap, I got it wrong again, is so fuel for most of us by our history of getting it wrong and then being shamed or guilted because we got it wrong.
See, I just want to say, but that might have only happened once, and yet I've replayed it over and over again.
Yeah, yeah. And so part of what we do have to cultivate, and this is a basic psychological principle of compensation, it's a basic spiritual principle. Everything exists with its opposite. And so if, let's just say, and things have to balance one another. So if the response is, oh crap, I got it wrong again. Oh crap, I got it wrong again. Then we can try to talk ourselves out of that attitude, or we can work on strengthening and developing an attitude that says, okay, I know how to do it and land on those strings. Let me look and see what I'm doing that helps me land on those strings. How might I use that to land on the strings I want? And so we begin to shift an attitude and become curious and look at how to support ourselves and to claim what we already know. Obviously, I know how to hit the quote wrong notes, i.e., I'm getting to the notes, the strings above or below where I want to be.
Well, you're what you're hitting right on the nose for me is, we came into this talking about changing the experience. And it just occurred to me that the big deal here isn't changing the notes that you're playing. It's changing the experience of playing those notes.
Yes.
So if you are like, wrong note, cool. Wrong note, cool. Whoa, I am doing this wrong. Like, what? I could do this wrong all day. That's great. Cool. Now, interesting. Those are the notes that are actually interesting. But if I can now, again, I'm always saying this in terms of what I see in music, but don't see in my own life.
Yeah.
So how do we first? So I'm thinking, A, how do we get the awareness? B, where do we put in the acceptance? And C, my big interest here, because I've built this piece to give people the experience. And the experience of being able to do something sort of grand, but using simple resources. So I know it's possible in music. I want it to be possible for me in other parts of my life. So this, like, if we could come away, if I could get anything today, it would be like, how do we talk about this all the time, awareness, process, relationship. So if I could figure out how to get awareness of this in my own life, and how other people can get awareness. 2, how can we build a new process. Like
Mm-hmm.
I built this piece as a process for
Mm-hmm.
developing self-expression
Mm-hmm.
and improvisation. How can I build those kinds of things in my own life so that then I have a different relationship with myself and with what I'm doing? Answer
Sure.
me that. I'll write it down.
Well, let's just play for a minute. So I
Okay.
think that awareness, there are things we can do to develop our psychic muscle of awareness, because awareness is a psychic muscle. We have to train ourselves. So meditation is one way to train ourselves. And I love insight meditation, where you sit and you just breathe and you notice whatever's coming up in your body. You did that in a way with when you got the insight about the indebtedness. So developing awareness. I think meditation, stream of consciousness journaling, where you're just writing whatever's going on inside of you, working with your breath and letting your breath lead you into noticing what's happening in your body, cultivating doing body scans, where you're regularly just with your mind's eye scanning your body to see where there's tension, where there's relaxation, where there's aliveness, where there's deadness, all those things. So those are probably the top things for cultivating awareness. Of course, the fifth is paying attention to feedback we get from the outside world. So when people make comments to us that we have an energetic emotional response to, that can help us become aware of an attitude or something inside of us that we might not be aware of.
So when we're triggered, we can start
When we're
becoming aware of
triggered,
when we're
that's
triggered.
right.
Okay, great, good.
So those are, I think, 5 ways to develop awareness. I'm sure there are more, but those are top ones that come to mind. The process is always then in being willing to engage in dialogue with it with a curious, open-hearted, accepting, non-judgmental, non-critical attitude. So I loved it when you said, okay, so I can change my relationship to what I'm doing. And last year sometime I made myself a performance manifesto. This was a part of my working with the harp to move into feeling like I had something to offer playing publicly, because I did come to the harp as an adult, and it'll be 9 years ago this month, actually. And
Congratulations.
thank you. And so part of my manifesto was that I was going to see wrong notes as creative and interesting harmony. That I was going to change how I experienced that. When I hit a wrong note, instead of thinking, darn it, I messed up, I was going to listen for the creative and interesting harmony. And that totally helped me relax and changed how I felt. So that process of being in relationship to the awarenesses that I gained, the self-talk and how it made me feel, and the outcome it was getting me, because I'd make mistakes and then I'd stop playing, or I'd lose where I was at because of my emotional response. So when I could change, use my awareness, be in relationship, because process and relationship from a Jungian perspective, we can't really separate. That in terms of transformation, relationship is the process that transforms. And even awareness means there's a relationship between ego, self, and something else, something other.
Oh, so these 3 things, awareness, process, and relationship, they're all at work at the same time.
Yes.
And
Yes.
they're
It's like they're
interconnected with each other.
holographic.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's really interesting, because as you're talking about this and you're I'm also thinking about embodying. I'm thinking about the piece Baroque flamenco
Mm-hmm.
and what it allowed me to do, which was
Mm-hmm.
to embody a part of myself I had no right to embody at that point. I didn't have the skills that I should need to have to do it, and yet just because I'm a composer and I knew how to fake it, I was able to fake. And so the whole piece is really made on a make believe. It's a big fake. But the biggest fakes in the world are the magic, meaning that they're fake. They're not what they're supposed to be. They're something different. Like something can only be fake if you're trying to do something else. Nothing else can be fake because everything does exist. It is a thing. I mean, you can have a fake dollar bill, but only in comparison to a dollar bill. But a dollar bill is fake money. It used to be gold, and gold is fake value because value used to be whatever, so you kind of keep going. This idea of how to create an experience, how to create something in which we can have a new experience of ourselves. So I can say all I want to myself. I want to be able to play like a flamenco dancer, and I want to, but until I have, until I have the vehicle to actually experience that, and even starting slow, with my entire body, like I've gotten really fast at it, but what I discover is that people who are just learning it, that they act like learners versus acting like a child who will embody it. Yeah. And where, I don't know where and I'm talking about me just as much as anybody else, I could be embodying parts of my life all over the place that would then change my experience of life. But I don't even see them anymore because I'm so, stuck in this, I owe this and I have to do it this way and it has to be this. And I got to look good. I got to look good doing it.
Yeah, and you, unfortunately, part of the socialization process is that we learn, what's fake and what's real, what's legitimate and what's not legitimate, what's real music and what isn't.
Exactly, and this is really powerful. How can something not be real music?
Right, that's right. So that whole collective way of thinking actually is part of what dismembers all of us. Because then when we start to have an experience, you play what you just did and feel the flamenco dancer in you, immediately this learned attitude kicks in critically. Oh, well, that's fake. And so then it chips away at our organic embodied experience. So part of remembering, re-experiencing is really beginning to be aware of those kinds of internalized attitudes and beliefs that block us from having our experience. And this applies in every area of life. We can go back to the gift you're given from a man you're dating, and it kicks up the fear of, oh my God, I'll be indebted if I accept it. And it cuts you off from the momentary experience of feeling loved and cared for and seen and honored. And the joy of being in relationship with someone who wants to give to you. All of that gets chopped away at like the axe with that collective internalized belief. So again, the process is the same in every area of our life of looking at what's blocking me from my experience. But we have to, again, have an awareness of what's going on inside of us. So now we're back to the spiritual psychic muscle we build through meditation, stream of consciousness journaling, breath work, body scans.
I'm loving what you're saying, and I'm noticing that we're getting some great comments that I want to just sort of
Oh,
respond to and say
yeah.
hello to people. And I also want to say that when you were talking, what popped into my head was saying to myself, stop remembering who you think you are and start reinventing and re-experiencing who you can be.
Yeah, and maybe again, it's not even reinventing, although from the ego's perspective and from our goal-driven collective, it's reinventing. But from an analytic perspective, it's just living into the fullness of who you are.
So it's actually
When you def-
experiencing, but
experiencing,
and there's no re there at all. It's like
that's right. When you composed Baroque flamenco, you were just living into and giving expression to something inside of you.
that's
You
right.
weren't reinventing yourself. Now, maybe that began to happen as a result of the
Actually,
expression.
that's a really good point. I wasn't reinventing anything. I was
Right.
actually creating a vehicle for who I am that needed a vehicle for expression.
Yes. Yes. So that's how we begin then to re-experience ourselves is we follow the pull of the organic, innate, larger self in us, and we give ourselves support in expressing that, and that then changes our view of ourself. That changes our experience of ourself and the world around us.
And as you were saying this, I just have to admit that my one of my thoughts is I'm scared. Like it was safe in music, and wow, if I do that in the rest of my life, you know, I'm scared, which is good. I know that. I know that. And I've had a commitment, I made a commitment in the beginning of the year to move towards vulnerability. And that means
Mhm.
going into fear. So I think we're getting some comments. Go ahead. Yes, music and philosophy is what this is about. That's what we are exploring, and this all came about because I was on tour and Kathleen was hosting me, and as she was driving me to, we would drive. She would drive me to the concert and stuff, and we started having these conversations. And I was just like, wow, these are amazing. How can we keep having these conversations about music and philosophy? And
Mhm.
so this is how we realize, and what if we shared them? What if we just opened them up and shared them? So if people have questions, I mean, I'm loving the comments like, holy crap, that sounds great. Love it. Who's not going to like that? But if you do have questions, finally we found a way that we can actually see them. And so, hello. Kathleen, I just want to go back to this thing, sort of this revelation that I had in the middle of what
Mhm.
this is, which is stop to myself, stop remembering who I'm supposed to be or who I think I am, and start experiencing. Now, I'm not sure what comes at the end of that sentence. Start experiencing what can be, start experiencing what is, start experiencing um and
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Start experiencing, period. Start experiencing what's happening inside of you now.
right.
Start, you know, eh, um, yeah, it's so
Right,
funny. The
that's
other
great.
morning, yeah, the other morning I got up and I've been having some digestive issues and burping a lot. And I woke up at 5:30 in the morning. I thought, oh, this is so miserable. And I thought, I wonder what it would sound like on the harp. So I went to the harp and I wasn't, I thought I had my harp set for C. It turned out I had an F sharp. So I was actually technically
Mm,
in the key of G, but
nice.
I was playing the C and the G in the left hand. And in my right hand, I was playing G, A, C, D. And it just was sounding wonderful and it was
Mm.
resonating. And I was laughing at myself about the beauty of my indigestion. But amazingly, afterwards, I felt better physically. that I think we just have to let ourselves give expression to whatever we're experiencing in the moment. And music is one way of doing that. You know, cultivating language and relational language that can speak to our emotions and speak to our longings and desires is also a way that we do it and we express ourselves in relationship.
Yeah, I'm thinking about that and about how okay, we're always talking about awareness, process, relationship, and then I think you're often talking about the first step. It just reminded me of something of is to give expression, is to bring it up, is to become aware. And what I'm hearing is that we can become aware through self-expression. Like
Yes.
I may not know. This happened yesterday in Harp Time Live. So Harp Time Live is a weekly play along, and I always come to Harp Time Live without making a decision in advance what we're going to do. But I had decided that we were going to experiment with this chord progression because it's the chord progression in Baroque flamenco. But I also had this idea that I wanted to see what would happen if we took it into a different key. And so I started to take it into C, into the major equivalent. And then I didn't like it once I heard that pattern, so I started experimenting with it. I changed it slightly, and I started changing, instead of taking the whole pattern down, I started leaving the right hand where it was and taking the left hand down. And then I moved that whole thing up to F. And started playing with that, and then brought that back down. And then went back to the very first pattern. But the second time that I would do that pattern, I made a slight change that would bring me back. And then it started taking the shape that had a sort of a meaning, but it hadn't had that meaning until I played with it, and I was playing, and other people were playing, at the same time that we couldn't hear each other. But and I'm leading it. But the thing that really blew me away was that the awkwardness of it at first, and that there was no meaning for it at first. At first, it was just an idea. It was an idea. And the meaning started only later, and only when I did it slowly enough to really, like, I had to stay here long enough that would make meaning. And I don't know if it will now, to come back to this. And I don't know if you can hear that kind of return to that feeling of a home. But that didn't exist in the beginning. It was an idea. It was just exploration on a very simple level and a very slow level. And over a period of, 30 minutes, that started developing in real time until I could experience that I wanted to be here in a feeling that felt like this. And I wanted to go there over and over and over and over again. And then there was music. And then there was music.
So you said something that I just want to reiterate, and then kind of circle back and tie up what we've been talking about. And we've got a quick
Oh,
question here.
right.
But, I think, DHC, one of the things that you said happened is in the beginning, you didn't say it this way, but it really wasn't satisfying. You
Mhm.
weren't, when
Right.
you first started playing, it wasn't resonating. And so you let yourself play and explore until you found what resonated.
Right.
And then you let yourself deepen into that until it really took you into this feeling place that did resonate. And then you wanted to stay there and experience it. So you just modeled for us that when we are remembering who we are and we are expressing from the depths and wholeness of who we are, that when we first start trying, whether it's talking to our partner or playing at our instrument, it may not be quite right.
Mhm.
But we keep on playing. We keep on
Mhm.
experimenting with the words. We keep on experimenting with the notes until we find what really resonates. And if we keep on going and seeking that, we get there. So we start with awareness of what does and doesn't resonate. We let ourselves give ourselves over to the process of exploring, experimenting, being impacted, expressing, and then we find ourselves in a deeper relationship to something.
Right.
And so that remembering and re-experiencing is taking place in the journey.
It's so powerful as you're saying that, and I'm thinking I can do this in music and don't know how to do it in many other
Yeah.
parts of life. And then as you kept talking, I thought, I don't know if I can handle it. It's so powerful. It's so overwhelming. It's so beautiful. It's so complete. And could I handle it in other parts of life? I don't know. But that's for me to think about. And I know we have a question here, which is
Yeah.
really fascinating.
Yeah, so let me say this because I know we're going to have to stop in 3 or 4 minutes. Um, I think, DHC, what I want to say to you about the rest of your life and to myself and to all our listeners is take baby steps. Just like with the harp, you say to people all the time, it's the simple. It
I,
doesn't have to be complicated. It's the simple. So in
it's,
other parts of life,
sorry.
yeah,
I,
yeah, it's the simple.
it is a simple, but here's the thing. I don't know what steps to take in other parts of my life. And this is
Mhm.
the thing that I can give to other people in music and in the harp. I can show them that those steps, and I need to find those steps from others, because it may seem so simple. What seems simple to you, it is so not, I don't even know where to look for it.
Well, but we do it together all the time. And
Yes.
I love that our friend who says that they love us both, the music and the philosophy coming together. But I think you and I do it all the time.
Hmm.
And so I think you're already doing it, but you're overthinking it because you get afraid. And if you can think through it, you have a false sense of control. We all do.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
But you're living it, and we live it together in every conversation. And I want to just tie that into the question
Yeah,
for
there's
a
a really
minute.
great question here, and I know you have to
Yeah,
go.
yeah, and that I think that anything we do, from sharing music on a social media platform or sharing a thought or whatever we do, we can do it from a lot of different places inside of us. So we can do it from a place of ego and vanity and it only being about us and self-promotion, or we can do it out of a sense of having been touched and wanting to share something that might touch someone else. And we can do it from a place of wanting to connect with other people to say, this is my experience. Um, and I want to connect with those of you who've had your own experiences in that line. I know I watched a piece of music that was posted through the Hip Harp Academy in the last month, and one of the members had composed a song in response to the migration of people out into the country and from the cities, and how it had driven up home values and was causing other people to, the locals, to be unable to afford housing. And even saying it, I got chilly bumps, because her sharing what she created resonates for me about something I observed that I haven't felt called to put into words or music, but that needs to be shared for people to have greater consciousness. So I think that, as with anything, it really depends on our intention and what's going on. And for next week, maybe we pick up on conscious intention and unconscious intention, because everything has a whole. We go thinking we want to express one thing, but there's usually something else alongside it. And that's just the reality of psyche. And again, when we can make room for that, then the uniting third, just like a new word, flamenco, can be created. Yeah.
And I just wanted to say, and I want to read the question because not everyone's seeing it. It's really beautiful. Yeah. It's a spiritual question. Sharing music on social media platforms, isn't that ego and vanity based? A shallow desire for attention and validation? Any good reason to share other than self-promoting? And I just think this is such a great question, because I think a lot of people feel, I know a lot of people feel that when they do start sharing who they are, or even, expressing something or playing it, that they're just showing off, and it feels awkward, and we've been told that, and so I just appreciate that you put that into words, because I think many people feel that. And to get to that heart of saying, look, I'm going to share because it's a human thing to share, and I'm going to raise my voice because that is the voice I've been given, and getting through that, I think I really appreciate your saying those words so that we can get them out in the open, because they're in so many of our heads. And Betty's saying it's hard for me to express myself in public. Yeah, because there's all these things happening. So I just love that, and thank you, word artist. I thank you that you're uplifted. I am every time I talk to Kathleen, which is why I wanted to share this. I want to share her with the world. And so I know we have to go, and I just love that we found this new platform where we can actually connect with people. This is a new thing for us.
So come back next week.
Okay, great.
Same time, same place. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's right. We meet every Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, or a little bit afterwards, because we have to discuss things first. And you already have our subject for next time, so that's great, Kathleen. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. This was just really fun, kind of like, wow, we're connecting. And I'll see you next week, Kathleen. And for everyone else, just go to Jung at Harp, and you can see replays from our other sessions, and we'll get this up as quickly as possible. Thank you. Bye-bye. And thank you so much.